Hello. So I do videos about bikes, guns, life, the universe and everything. Not that wise, not that clever, certainly not learned. That's me. That noise is me stirring my coffee. Which, incidentally, I've only started drinking coffee in the last 3 months of my life. Don't know why that is. Anyway, so I want to make a record of what happened on the 3rd of April of this year while I was cycling. Now, I'm an aspirational cyclist, as in I have aspirations, not that I am somebody to aspire to be like. And one of my aspirations is just to ride as fast and as far as possible. And I've been doing this now for 6 years. And I have written a book about my early adventures, but nobody will ever buy it. And if they did, it's probably just going to be quite boring. But anyway, put that to one side. Oh, and the video might suddenly end because my wife has gone out, but she's got a habit of coming back when least expected or wanted. That's not to say I don't want her to come back. It's just that, trying to make a video and the house is finally quiet, and that's when she'll turn up. So anyway, 3rd of April this year, around about 10 minutes past 4 in the afternoon, I was about a mile or so away from home, and I was riding my first generation giant TCR with Shimano 600 group set. It's a good bike. It's not that light by today's standards, but it is fast. It is, and I was going as fast as I was able. I do, I think it's a 17-mile circuit, and it takes me around about an hour, usually less than an hour. But if it's windy, then it can take a bit longer. So I live in a really windy area for some reason. Say some reason, it's flat. It's very flat where I live. And anyway, so I was coming through this village near to where I live, and I was going over 20 mile an hour because, my aim is to have an average of 20 miles per hour for an hour with no little friends with me who I can hide behind to get a rest. So if I do 20 miles an hour average, which I've got close to quite a few times, using vintage bikes as well, that means that, that's an achievement for me. And so I was going along quite fast, and I noticed a woman on the pavement to my left, older woman, grey haired, short grey hair, walking two little black Scotty dogs. They're like black Westies, basically. Small, sturdy little terrier types. And, whenever you're a cyclist, whatever I'm driving, because I drive lorries, cars, motorbikes, whatever, I am extremely observant. I'm always looking for something that's going to kill me or hurt me or force me to brake or slow down or whatever, because that's how I get around the world. Even when I'm on foot, I have to avoid the zombie classes. So anyway, riding along, see the woman on the left, and I'm going about 22 mile an hour at this point, and I see something on my right hand side periphery, just a flicker of movement, and I immediately start applying both brakes, and then bang, I've hit it. And it's a fucking dog, of all things. And it's run out from a house on the other side of the road to get to these two little dogs. The dog that I hit was fucking huge. It's called a Cane Corsa. It's a Italian Mastiff, and they're a big motherfucker of a dog. Up to about 70 kilograms if it's a male. That's a big dog. And it stopped me like I hit a fucking wall. I didn't have a chance. I didn't have a fucking chance. My reactions are good, and I didn't have a chance. It's like being shot with a gun. You can't fucking avoid that bullet if it's coming to coming to get you. The dog was like a bullet from a gun. And my front wheel hit it, and I was catapulted over the air, through the air, and I didn't roll, and I didn't bounce, but I flew through the air about probably 10 to 12 feet and hit the ground solidly. I mean, I'm a 16 stone guy, and I hit the ground without rolling, bouncing or skidding. And I don't know if you can see it, but this shoulder it's got a ACP, I think, or ACJ level 3. So basically, it's all fucking jumbled up in there now. It's a bit of a mess. It's painful all the time. I've got a lot less movement, and I certainly won't be getting on a bike anytime soon. And my hip as well hit the ground, and the back of my head, just about here, and my helmet split open, burst open. Once I'd stopped, once I the impact and had finished, I started checking. I was like, it was shock. I was in shock, I guess. Because I'd just been riding along, minding my own business, and then boom, I'm on the ground and starting to feel a lot of pain. And I sort of like, fucking hell, what if my leg's broken? What if so I started like feeling around on my body. And I got to my shoulder and I felt this fucking lump that ain't meant to be there. And I mean, I'm not a medical practitioner, but I knew from experience that previously my shoulder wasn't that shape. So I knew something was wrong. Then 2 or 3 people turned up, and one guy was very keen to get me out of the road, which I guess is, I didn't want to move. I was just like, like that. But he was, obviously he wasn't in agony or shock, so he helped me out of the road. And there was another guy there who was just hovering, I guess, as support if anybody needed him to do anything. And then some woman, some purple-haired modern world denizen with a fat arse and a small head. I'm just being descriptive. I mean, like the guy who picked me up smelled of oil and cigarette smoke, had green overalls on, and a dark complexion of somebody who's worked outside for most of his life, but a Caucasian. I mean, how much detail do you want? It's like, it'll become apparent why I might not describe the lady in glowing terms, referring to her good points, rather describing her bad points to create a negative visual and therefore negative sort of persona. Because this is me talking, I'm the one with the broken shoulder and the knackered hip, and I'm pissed off, and so I'm not going to describe her in positive terms. I'm biased, quite frankly. And anyway, turns out it's her dogs, or dog. She's got 2 of them, but only one of them obviously ran out in front of me. I heard the woman with the 2 Scotties saying, that's the second time your dog's ran out to get mine. So I knew that this wasn't a freak accident, it's a belligerent act. The woman, the fat-arsed woman with the purple hair, I've seen her because I live in a village area, and I saw in the final year of my youngest son's at what I call a junior school, this woman had started going there and taking her child. I don't know if it's male or female, couldn't tell. There was no obvious signs. So I'd seen her, and everyone's guilty of this, so I don't apologise for anything I say. But I knew as soon as I saw her, and bearing in mind this is like a year ago, like before the accident, I saw her and I thought, she's a stupid cunt. you know, you don't get to the age of 50 without stereotyping people in life. And we're all told that stereotypes were bad. But I always think of stereotypes as being really helpful. And, you know, of course, sometimes using stereotypes can offend people, or can even, you could misrepresent somebody because they look or behave a certain way, but not really, they're not like that. You know, they've got purple hair and loads of piercings through their face, loads of tattoos on their arms, which they always have to display no matter what the temperature, to tell you their life story in a form of pictures, but then they get offended if you are caught staring at the wondrous illustrations upon them. Anyway, you don't go through the 21st century without being scarred. Anyway, so here we go. So I just saw her, I thought she's a cunt. And then I think nothing more of her. Because I see lots of people like that. You know, I'm judgmental. Ooh. So anyway, the other reason I thought she was a cunt was because she's got one of these massive 4x4s that has the plastic bit on the back to make it look like a Paris-Dakar vehicle from when we used to be able to do the Paris-Dakar race. And, you know, it's called Barbarian or Warrior or Eye Socket Fucker or whatever stupid fucking name attracts people to big, stupid, gas-guzzling dollops of automotive shit of the kind I'm talking about. So I think anybody that drives those vehicles has got something fucking severely wrong with them, unless they live in America or they live on a farm. Anybody that drives a gigantic gas-guzzling 4x4 that doesn't handle well, doesn't brake well, and forces people to drive into hedges on country lanes, I just don't see the fucking point, quite honestly. It's like they've got like a mental infirmity or weakness which requires them to have an over-the-top and too large a vehicle for British roads. Just my opinion. Don't matter. So, anyway, digressing slightly. So anyway, I recognised her straight away. I was sitting there on the curb, and the guy who smelled of cigarettes and oil asked me if I wanted to call an ambulance. Now, I don't really have much faith in the NHS at the moment. Could make another video about that, but it's the sort of video that gets banned. Let's just say it's not a good time to get ill. So I said, no, I don't want an ambulance. I'll wait for my wife. I realised that I had to go to accident and emergency because that's just what you do. You know, because I don't know how badly hurt I am. I didn't know whether my arm was dislocated or, you know, as it turns out, it's all the bones that go down are dislocated from the main joint. But I thought maybe the ball was dislocated. I mean, when everything just hurts, you know, and is covered up with a lycra top, there's not a lot you can do. You just have to go to hospital. Anyway, so my wife came very quickly and got me into the car, took me to hospital. Now, when we got to the accident and emergency, you know, there's still like the insane necessity for most people in there to be wearing masks. Well, there's no fucking way I'm going to wear a mask because I'm struggling for breath because, you know, I'm in pain, and I'm not going to fucking add the misery of a mask that cannot possibly stop virus particles. They don't fucking work. They can't work. You know, it's like trying to soak up the sea with a fucking bath sponge. That won't work either. You know, we'll hit the moon with a catapult, a tiny little handheld catapult. It's not going to work. You know, a fucking mask, like the ones that everybody's been wearing in the NHS, can't stop a virus. Fucking can't. Can't. Anyway, so I didn't wear a mask. And the scene inside the the A&E was horrific. I mean, it was like I often see the world through a lens of it's a little bit like this film, it's a little bit like that film, which isn't surprising. I've watched a lot of films and a lot of them are realistic, and it's easier when you're describing something to somebody to give them an example of a film, because chances are they've seen that film as well, so it's a point of reference that we both have. So you know what I'm talking about. So imagine a film, say, about a large natural disaster, end of the world type film, apocalyptic film, that kind of thing. And everyone's like maybe got a virus or been injured by a fucking meteorite hitting or something. But basically the world's fucked and you're just seeing like the dying flip-flopping of an organisation trying to cope with something it can possibly cope with. And that's what the emergency room looks like. And I've had reason to go into the emergency room 4 months ago because I had like a fake heart attack. It wasn't a heart attack, it had a torn into costal muscle in my chest. But because I'm a lorry driver, the NHS decided that I'd had a heart attack, but that it wouldn't be worth diagnosing for months. So it caused maximum disruption to my life. And yeah, it's all about nuance, isn't it, really, medicine? Not broad strokes. So I once more digress. So yeah, the A&E room. It's like a scene from a disaster film. There are people screaming, moaning, desperate, scared faces. A young woman came in, she was miscarrying. And, you know, the people around her and her, they still didn't know that baby was going to die. I know. Been in that situation. So I know how it goes. Very rare that it ends well. And you see all of this going on in front of you. And meanwhile, you're in lots of pain yourself. And all the staff are wearing masks, and you know it's not fucking, you know, all that's doing is causing an ecological disaster and giving a certain country a shit ton of money for PPE that's not used and isn't effective. But it was really bad in there. And then after I got checked in, you know, and you're told it's a 9-hour wait. It's a fucking 9-hour wait. And then you sat there and you realise that a lot of the people that are in that emergency room are actually people who can't get to see a GP because fucking GPs at the moment, a lot of them are refusing to see patients face to face. They're only doing phone messages, you know, to minimise the spread of a disease that kills people in their 80s on average, and has a lot of statistical disinformation regarding its effectiveness against humans. And it's a little bit like China. China are carrying on with acting as if COVID is airborne Ebola. And, you know, they're torturing their population because they just don't want to admit that actually the disease wasn't as bad as what they'd said or what they'd feared. So, and it's a bit like the NHS. The NHS are acting like that, but which doesn't surprise me. It's a largely left-wing infiltrated organisation, so of course they're going to do what the ultimate left-wing country is doing. They're just going to follow on. So, anyway, maybe I said too much about that. It's only an opinion. So, yeah, I got through the first bit eventually, quite quickly actually, and saw a doctor who had seen a female doctor who thought it was a good idea to dye her hair purple, telling me it's not a good idea. You just look like a fucking cartoon character or something. Purple has never been. It dehumanises you. I just don't see the fucking point. So, but she seemed nice, and she sympathised with me and told me how her husband was also a cyclist and he'd been badly injured, and she seemed to be switched on. And I thought, good, I'm going to get sorted out pretty quick. And then she informed me that she was at the end of her shift, so she was sending me off for X-rays and stuff, but she wasn't going to be looking at them, and I'd see another doctor when the time came. So I was taken off to get X-rayed by the nurse,